I have a question. Is the open source community's enemy? I mean, if there is an enemy, are the copiers or the the patents or all sorts of that kind of things? Or how do you see, you know, although there are some companies or personnel who copy the ideas, prototypes, or the board,
So what's interesting is that there's really no need to copy Arduino, as in it's open source. You can download the files and make it if you want. So what's interesting that whoever is copying, they copy the brand, because in a way, that's what people are looking for. So in a way, to me, actually, I don't really. It's not that much of a problem for me. Somebody over here in China makes a copy of Arduino to sell it on the local market, because the ones that are made in Italy are way too expensive. So clearly we're working now to manufacture official Arduino boards in China for the Chinese market. So we're not interested in making stuff here to sell somewhere else. We want to make them here for the Chinese market. And when that happens, we will start to tell people, can you stop using our logo? But actually what's happening is a number of people started cloning Arduino boards. At some point they wanted to show that their clone was better than somebody else's clone. And if you're copying somebody else's brand, how do you do it? So they started to add their own brand on top of the clone. So in a way, I think this is a typical evolution. First you start by copying somebody else, and then you start to add your own values to it. And then suddenly you develop your own brand. So I think it's a natural evolution. Probably there are other enemies of the open source hardware world, like money is a bit of a problem. Now that the cake is becoming big and there is the possibility to make money in certain areas, clearly some people get attracted by the cash and they start to sort of, care less about the ideas.
Thanks.
Oh, a question back there.
Hi, sorry, I don't know how to spell your Italian name.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, so I have two questions. Just now you said that there's a disconnection between, China and with the rest of the world. Compared with the States and the European, and China is a little bit different. Because the open source culture is not that popular. It seems they are. Compared with the Italian, is that they are conservative, and Chinese are more conservative. They're thinking about making money. They don't want those ideas to spread around, and then others can become the competitors. So, what's your comments? Since you have already, visited China and talked with those makers, and what's your ideas about Chinese open source environment?
So, for example, let me tell you that, for example, in Italy, where I come from, the open source culture is not that widespread or understood as you may imagine. Actually, a lot of Italians think, open source, idiots, suckers, they're giving away stuff for free, I can copy, and make a product and just hide everything. So, actually the number of people who really get it is small even there. So in a way, it doesn't, I wouldn't say that, I met a lot of people in China that are completely into the open source software and hardware. They contribute, they help, so I think it's either people get it or they don't get it. So we have to, help people to understand the benefits of participating in a larger ecosystem. And there's also longer discussions that we can have that justify even business models based on open source. But then I saw also these factories in China that just freely share the design of things they make. So in a way, maybe it's not formalized, maybe there's no licenses attached to everything, but I saw this free sharing of knowledge, which happens in a way. So the question is really to, everywhere in the world, you need to educate people and explain, look, if you participate into this open source ecosystem and you contribute, the whole ecosystem and your life will improve. So I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in China, and there's a lot of potential. You're a lot of people, and there's a lot of very intelligent people here. So.
We have time for one more question.
I'm Wu. I'm an information technology teacher in Beijing, and I have a question about education. And is there any successful curriculum happens in American or somewhere in the world and in middle school? And I mean, another question is what the makers movement and what you will think it will be happens in the future, and if it will change give us a different future for human being.
For what, sorry?
For human being. Humans.
Okay, sorry, yeah, okay. Sorry, that's a big question. Okay. I'm not a philosopher. So now one thing that I can say just as a basic thing, for example, this project that we did with this region of Spain is actually based on middle school. So actually it was interesting because they paid for us to design some teaching material for middle schools, but the agreement was that we would release everything as open source. And actually what we didn't really design the curriculum per se, but we designed materials for teachers. So the teacher ran classes, so they interpreted in the way the material in their own way, with their own sensibility. And then they went and measured how that impacted the students. So it's a full-scale study that also shows how teaching kids using the methods that normally makers use to learn about technology, how that actually created some interesting feedback. There's also a number of feedbacks that are being gathered by different schools. Like we had examples of like schools in Northern California, but also in Southern Italy, where they reduced the number of dropouts because teaching about electronics, software using Arduino, processing, the 3D printers. A number of students, they would just leave school, they would actually come back in just for those classes. So somebody went like, haha. So it was an interesting, so there is a lot of work, and this work is available on the Arduino website. And we are actually doing some work now to tidy up all the educational material we have and place it in one specific website where you will be able to download everything. But in here, there's software, laser cut stuff, examples, PDFs. They even designed everything in black and white so that you can print it on a cheap laser printer and photocopy it. Yeah, it was all designed, you know, with Spanish and Italian schools in mind, which have no budgets. So. Then the future of the maker movement in human beings, that's an interesting question, but it's kind of hard for me to look at that deep, or maybe we don't really have the time to go so deep into the future of human beings. So I will probably, if you allow me, I will stop here. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.